Don't give up on the system. Today's show, we got the mayor of Port Arthur, Texas, the land of the trio, Thurman Bartie in Jefferson County. He's going to talk about policy, procedure, his beliefs, and things he's been through as an elected official. Guys, this will be fire. He's going to drop some gems. Stay tuned. Don't give up on the system. Let's go.
He told me, AJ, you either going to be a politician or a pastor because you have a gift.
The sky's the limit, the sky's the limit. So fly. We do all this for the generations that come right after us. He tryna make what he made a way, and I got so much proof to show for it. The sky's the limit, the sky's the limit. Whoa.
I didn't choose politics. Politics chose me.
So, tell me, who is Thurman Bartie?
Well, I would say Thurman Bartie is a guy who grew up in Port Arthur, Texas. Spent most of his life here in Port Arthur, Texas, besides the time that I was away for college, and a person who loves Port Arthur, who has Port Arthur in his heart. Talking about myself in the third person, I'm trying to make sure it's right.
Yeah,
and just a person who is for the people. And I'm a person who loves the people. And whatever it is that I could do to enhance, uplift, sustain, all of those things would be, I think, some semblance of who I am.
So, some things about you. Let's talk about some of your background. Let's talk about, let's go all the way back to college, high school. Let's talk about some of your roots. Let's talk about some of that. When we talk about who is Thurman Bartie, how it shaped you.
If I go back to, I go further on leadership.
Okay.
I go back to actually the kindergarten. And I laid some of my friends outside of the campus, outside a fence that I had seen on a Sunday at my aunt's house, really. And that morning, Monday morning, we were on the playground playing, and I tell them all, I say, man, I know we could get out. Okay. Because school, Carver Elementary School, there was a fence around the school, back on the west side. And it was probably for drainage, when they were doing the landscaping or whatever. Anyway, we went away from where all the playground equipment was and went over there. And I said, see, man, I said, you can crawl right straight under there. And so I said, let me show y'all. So I crawled under there, and I got on the other side of the fence, so I'm outside.
Yeah.
And then I told my friends, about 3 or 4 of them, they crawled under, came. And by this time, about 4 of us, we on the other side now. Well, what do? We don't know. We 5 years old, okay? And the principal, who was actually a relative of mine, Ms. Dorothy Ingram, and a couple of teachers, they are watching us. And they sent Mr. Pierre out there to come to get us. Mr. Pierre was the man who would just whip you all the time.
Put that paddle on you, huh?
Yeah, but from that, I remember Ms. Ingram telling me, she said, but no, Thurman, I watched you. You went first. And then you told them to come on. He said, well, where were you going? Well, we hadn't figured all that out. It was just get outside the fence.
Get outside the fence. But the thing is, they trusted you enough to follow you.
Right. And that was my first recollection that I can, even though in adulthood at 70 years old, think about leadership and doing something and actually being able to influence someone else to follow me in what I had done. And from that one incident, I went through school and everything else, just being a leader. So when you get to, like, as you just said, in your collegiate days, your college days, you exercise leadership in organizations. And then even in adulthood, it's like when opportunity, presented itself back in '93. And an idea I had, say, yeah, man, I'm gonna run for this office. And having a undergraduate degree in political science, and then having grown up around politics, being involved in campaigns in the 60s. I can go back to like 1963 and 64. I remember when Reverend Ellis and gentleman, it was Mac Hannah III, Danny Boy, they were running for port commissioners in Port Arthur. And, passing out cards for them and knocking on doors, handing out we used to call them handbills back then. From a kid, I was involved in this. So it was almost just second nature. Put myself forward to want to run for an office, and having some collegiate training and some understanding and the backing, and more than anything, I believe you have to have the God presence, in office. If this is not what God has for you, then you're not going to become that. I mean, that's just my belief.
That's deep.
Okay, and he would even do what he needs to do to instill in you the desires you need to have to seek those positions. So that's what I've done throughout my entire life, I guess, political life and public life, is pursue what God actually innately puts into me to say, this is what you should do. And I've had some successes. I've had some disappointments. If you get into this, you're gonna go full circle. And I think one of the most important things is to be able to use the term, maybe I could be making myself a little older. You could rebound. They probably got another word they use.
Yeah, I like that rebound. That ain't a bad one. Like how you rebound through that diversity.
But you're able to take it and come back. I had a friend of mine that told me one time, said, man, you got basketball in you. Because I said, press you down and you bounce back up and you press you. And that's what you've got to be. To be a leader, you've got to be able to do that. And because you're going to have some disappointments. You're going to have some times where, situations that have you feeling like you're a failure, personally. But you have got to have that inner strength to overcome all of that. And all of those are qualities, I would say, that a good leader has to have in order to be an effective leader.
That's kind of deep, real deep. Can you share a bit about your background and what inspired you to pursue a career in public service, particularly in the Port Arthur area?
Well, so like as I was saying, my background collegiately in the undergraduate degree is in political science, government. So, and this was something I've always wanted to pursue service, going back to when I was a kid, So I knew I couldn't be an engineer, or I didn't want to be an engineer, didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't like numbers like that. Okay, so being in the liberal arts, that was what I felt in me. So that is the background that I do have, and again, pursuing it when the opportunity presented itself. The very first time I ran for public office, I can recall when the court case that brought about the redistricting of the precincts, and the justice precincts in particular, in Port Arthur, there was an opportunity for a minority, African American preferably, to run for that office and actually hold that office. And I still hold the distinction of being the very first African American elected in Precinct 8 in the city of Port Arthur in the county of Jefferson. And
wait a minute, pause. For people who don't understand, because we got viewers from all over the world, when you say Precinct 8, can you break it down for the ones who don't understand?
Yeah, Precinct 8 is part of, now if you look at the county commissioner for Port Arthur is precinct 3. That is the larger part of the whole. Well, that is the whole. When we look at the whole pie as far as Port Arthur and maybe some just edges of South County. And then within that big piece, there are 2 justice precincts. A long time ago, they used to call it all precinct 3, place 1 and place 2. Then after the court ruling, I believe it was in 1991 or 92 or sometime around that time, and they broke it down that it would be precinct 8 and precinct 2. Because they restructured everything, because it just didn't happen in Port Arthur, it happened all around Jefferson County. And because prior to that, Judge Paul Brown, who was, I consider a mentor, was the very first African-American elected to Justice Court in Jefferson County.
That's the office Deuce holds now, right?
I think, Judge Jones has it now, but Judge Paul Brown was elected to that like a year and a half probably before I became elected. And the reason being, or 2 years, right close to 2 years, there was a JP there, the late Barbara Thurman, who was there, who had served the community, and she was favorable with African Americans. And she and I spoke because I had put it out that I, had a desire to run for that office. But not only myself, there was about 4 or 5 others, really 5 or 6 really at the onset. But I was teaching over at Lincoln, it was Lincoln High School then. And when I made, spoke with individuals in Port Arthur, the powers that be, and she and I talked, and she expressed about the need to work 2 more years, or another year and a half, for her retirement, full retirement and everything, in the justice retirement. And knowing the sentiments of the community toward her, I told her, I said, okay, well, I'll back out of it. Because she was only going to serve 2 years. And once she did that, the way the courts had written it up, then it was time, to run. There were a few folk actually ran, they challenged her in that first race, but I didn't. And, it's politics. It's not Sunday school, it's politics. And you make, people don't like to call them deals, but you are presented with situational circumstances, if you will, that sometimes they are agreeable or they are unagreeable. And it was an agreed situational circumstance that I not run, that you work for those 2 years, and then I can get your support and the support that I have and get in office. Well, other folk didn't understand it, but because I would attribute it to the fact that God had blessed me, He had it for me, and He allowed me to go and be collegiately trained in the political arena to totally understand the workings of politics. And with all of that, in my grip bag, I was able, after the 2 years, to make the announcement that I was running, and I had five challengers. And it came down to a runoff between myself and another gentleman, and I was the victor. So I became the very first African-American justice of the peace in Precinct 8.
Wow.
Now, with that, you get disappointments, you get situations. Being a non-attorney judge is incumbent upon the state of Texas to train you to be the judge, because it's a people's court. So I was trained, through the 9 years that I was there to actually handle the court, but it became so political. And the sentiments that I had for students, because I had worked in education.
Yeah, you come from that background,
Yeah, and I sort of knew, because one of the very first jobs I had in education was a campus monitor. And the campus monitor was to be sure the students went to class. And I'm smiling because I had the whole campus. You know, it was only one person.
So you pretty much knew the students. You kind of had a feel.
And I know who skips, who doesn't skip. I know what period they're going to skip.
You knew them by first, last name?
Yeah, you know everybody. And you know, you had to stay moving. So with that, I learned behavioral patterns, if you will, of students. And I knew how to maybe try to overcome some of those. Well, I brought that information with me to JP Court. There was an opportunity, because in the state at that time, they had begun to deal with truancy. And TEA was involved, everyone was involved, because the funding for schools was dependent upon average ADA, I think it's average daily attendance. I think that was the acronym for it.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, I haven't been there in a minute, so okay, I had to think back. Okay, but that's what that was. And the school districts, and PAISD in particular, was being ill-affected, if you will, because students weren't going to class. And by them being marked absent, when it was time to divvy out the monies for students, you know, they were being, I think they were in a position where they were having to make refunds to the state.
Oh, wow.
You know, I think that's how that happened. It's been, you know, close to 30 years ago, but it was like that. And they needed to have some programs in place that would address truancy. Well, Constable Eddie Collins, Eddie was my constable in Precinct 8. He was the first African-American constable. So Eddie and I worked together in Precinct 8. Lincoln and Stephen F. Austin were the two schools that were in my precinct. Thomas Jefferson was in Precinct 2. Yeah. Okay, judges had discretion as to whether they'd hear the cases or not. This was something new. The other justice decided that he didn't really want to deal with the truancy cases, and he had the discretion.
It was at his discretion. Yeah.
So I then, Jimmy Weiber was the principal at Thomas Jefferson. He needed some help.
Attendance.
Yeah, it was bad. And so he came and he spoke to me, and I said, okay, I'll start taking your cases, man. Because they were all of our children in Port Arthur.
You didn't care about just...
Yeah, I didn't care about what side of town they lived on and all this other stuff. And as a result of that, I would hear hundreds per week of truancy cases. Eddie and Eddie came, he had programs for attendance. Even, I know prior to my going there, Judge Thurman had shared with me parenting classes where she had gotten a little active with them, you know, 2 years prior to my really getting there. And with all of that, we were involved, I was involved in it tremendously. There were some things that occurred, and some individuals came into the court, and they did some things that, on hindsight, I probably shouldn't have reacted to. You know, but I reacted to them. And the Judicial Commission said, you know, being a jurist, I was not supposed to react to that. And I mean, they were right. And then they wanted to remove me, and I resigned. So I resigned 1 week, the next week they said I was removed. Okay, so, but that's what it is.
But it's important we talk about that because, you know, it's important that people know the transparency. And you talked about earlier, you know, God can give it to you, but he also...
Yeah, and you see, it's not that he just takes it away. He can allow it to be taken away.
There you go.
To use you to show somebody You could fall, but then I could put you back where you need to be.
But again, basketball.
That's it. You know what I mean?
So that kind of moves me to my next point because, you know, when that happened, I'm pretty sure you went through all kinds of adversity.
Oh, yeah.
Rumors, people saying this about you, that about you. All right, kind of talk to me about the feelings and how did you come to bounce back?
Well, first of all, you have to keep Christ has to be the focal point in your life. You know, now it's already, you know, it's stated, it's said, it's in the Bible. You know, for all have sinned, they come short of the glory of God. Okay, look, I'm not perfect, and I don't even know how to be perfect. You know, I don't have that skill.
Yeah.
So I've done some things that, you know, I'm not the most proud person of. I've been in situations that I wouldn't even want to discuss on your show. You know, but those things have been a part of what has shaped me to be who I am now. And because of that, I dealt with some adversarial instances and situations in my life. You know, I mean, I learned this from my late pastor, Reverend Dr. Ransom Howard. You know, man, I was so low I had to look up to tie my shoes. Okay? But I kept my focus and the focal point in my life was like, God, what is going on? Christ, what are you doing with me? And he kept assuring me, like people would say, you know, some people would tell you things that, you know, they, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, say, no, I'm not through with you yet. I'm pruning you. I'm shaping you. And I went through something, I lost everything. I tell you, I was so low I had to look up so I could tie my shoes. But I never lost my faith. You know, that's the one thing, I never lost my faith. You know, it's kind of like Job, you know, though he slayed me, yet will I trust him. You know, and I was kind of feeling like Job. I can recall going through that. I mean, I'm like, whoa, man, this is,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, because you're on top of the world, and then okay.
I mean, you got to think about
Yeah.
it. The first in your history for your race.
Yeah.
You know, like you're making a difference. You're going above and beyond. You are not only hearing cases in your area, but you're also crossing over just to help.
To help
Attendance
people,
for you.
yeah. And then I get slammed.
Yeah.
You know, and with that comes lessons that you've got to learn. I learned forgiveness in the hardest way. Because the same folk who were the detonators or the perpetrators or whatever you want to call them, you know, I mean, I love them today. Okay? Who are you interviewing? Me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why would I waste my time hating them? You know, they were just being used by God to do something to Thurman. So, you know, Thurman can't get mad with them. They make God using them to get me straight.
But one thing, Mayor, you did is you don't see a lot of politicians do this, and I think that's why that level of respect is there for you. You took ownership. You didn't just say they came and you said I reacted.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I played a role in this.
Yeah, I did.
You took ownership.
Yeah.
And you don't see that a lot in today's society with politics. And I think that's why a lot of people lose confidence and trust in politicians.
Well, you know, it may be, you know, in the political arena, it's easy to say, you know, what was Flip Wilson used to have this little thing, the devil made me do it, you know, okay. All right, man, you can't put it all on the devil now.
Yeah.
Devil about to put it in front of you.
Yeah.
He didn't tell you to do it.
Yeah.
You had a choice. And it was the same thing that I had dealt with kids about in my court. When I had a Scared Straight program, I had another program where I was bringing the kids in the Scared Straight to the prisons. And man, I used to have them washing school buses. You know, anything to get your attention.
Yeah.
And I cared about the kids in my community. So, to go through what I went through, it was hurtful. It was a total redirecting of my life. And then you get to the point where you say, okay, God, you let me do that, I mess that up. Now, what it is you want me to do, man, I'm gonna just follow what you want. And that's why I get to this. You can quit asking the questions, I can tell you. He put me somewhere I never wanted to be. I could just say, man, I never wanted to be in municipal government. So I got a degree in government, so I didn't study government. I know all the tiers
the
of
levels
government.
to it,
I know everything.
Yeah.
And muni government is nowhere Thurman Bartie wanted to be.
Because your trajectory, you were at that judge level, no telling.
Yeah.
But again, you said, hey, God, I trust you.
And that's what I had to
I'm
do.
going to follow you. Show me where you want to use me.
Yeah. And at that juncture, I ended up where I am now through some ladies at a prayer breakfast saying they were praying and asked God who should be their mayor. And those ladies said, God showed them me. And I said, I don't know why he showed y'all, he ain't showed me. And the one lady who was assigned to come and tell me was Miss Opelousas.
I know Miss Opelousas.
And Miss Opelousas said, baby, you need to pray. And I said, okay, I'm gonna pray. Man, about a month later, that lady called me back. She said, you prayed, boy? I had to tell her, she said, no, ma'am, Miss Opelousas, I didn't even think about it no more after you told it to me. And I didn't. She said, well, the time is coming up and you need to say something if you're gonna do it. And these people are waiting, and they know what God showed them. And then it was like, I guess the Spirit told me, said, man, you better listen. And I did. I prayed, and with the revelation that I received from God was that I'm not going to just give it to you, you're going to work for it, but it's yours.
And I think, hold on, I have to kind of dive into that, because when we say work for it, to be elected official, a lot of people think it's given. It's not given.
No,
it's earned.
no,
It's
no.
earned. And,
Yeah,
and when you say work
whatever
for
level you're in.
and you say work for it, at that time you ran against an incumbent.
Right.
And when people, for the viewers watching, an incumbent is somebody who was already elected. and
Already
present.
there.
Yes.
Already has support in the office, doing the job. You know.
And it's not often you see incumbents lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be a steadfast, really strong person to defeat an incumbent.
I agree.
And I was just as shocked to win probably as he was to lose. I'm just telling the truth.
Because that same community where you were at an elevated position,
Yes.
you came down.
They saw me
came back
fall.
up,
And then,
and
but
some of the same people in that community sought you and picked you to be
but
the
you
mayor of
see,
the city of Port Arthur.
he said, he prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies. Not to call anybody enemies, that's just using what the word says. And he just showed them, okay, yeah, I let him fall, but then I pick him back up. And, it's a roller coaster. And when you're on top, you're on top. And this is the part about municipal government, is being in the judiciary, it's my decision based upon facts that I hear. And if it's
more control.
Yeah. Now, if it's determined sentencing, the statutes say if you do X, I do Y, whatever. Okay. If it's something where I have discretion, I hear the facts, and then according to what I've heard, the way I feel is how I rule. if I rule and you don't like it, you just appeal it. Go somewhere else. I'm cool. Okay, in municipal government, it's like being in the legislature, or being in Congress.
A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
People don't understand
It's not, no, if I like it and say it, I gotta go get me 2 or 3 other people who may feel and think the same way, or go to what I talked about earlier, those circumstantial situations, and you get the support you need to get done what you're trying to do. But it's not like that. I wish it were now. If it were that easy, you probably would have more people in it than you do.
Yeah. And then Port Arthur's population, y'all, I know y'all over 60,000, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the census people say, Bureau, say we have 56, 57,000, but we have to be at 67. We have to be close to 70,000 people in Port Arthur or more.
Yeah.
But you have to go along with what
the census,
statistics
that's
say.
just getting data from people, and
Yeah.
people don't give the data. It cannot be
a
documented.
third of them don't want to, they can't read it.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just telling you what I'm telling you. I'm telling you the truth.
Here we grow again. Don't give up on the system. I have sponsorship opportunities. If you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking to grow your entity, get with me. Hit the link below. Let's grow together. Don't give up on the system. Let's go. You've been a vocal advocate for economic development on Pleasure Island and downtown revitalization. What's your vision for these projects, and how will they reflect Port Arthur's unique identity?
Well, that's 2 different areas of town areas, but let's first deal with Pleasure Island. Okay, Pleasure Island is, and a lot of folks, they've been saying it for years, it's a diamond in the rough. I think that there have been several mayoral administrations that have wanted to maybe try to do something. Well, one thing I can say during the Bartie mayoral administration, that a plan is in place to make Pleasure Island pleasurable, in that we have, and the voters gave us the ability to do this, we are in the process of entering into an agreement with a developer for the water park concept. And with the water park comes all of the I guess you would call side developments, if you will, or other developments that would support the big concept. With the hotels, restaurants, and all these other businesses.
It's kind of dispersed.
Right.
Yeah.
That would actually come from that one big development. So I can say during my administration that has occurred, or it is occurring.
It's in the process.
Yeah. And time, government and dealing with things in government, dealing with developments of that nature is not something that you just, snap your finger. It ain't bewitched.
It may be 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, before you really begin to see some type of tangible evidence that is really going to happen. But with Pleasure Island, if we would, I believe, allow the proper amount of time with the developer, whom I have faith in because I think that the gentleman is going to be able to do that which he has said he's going to do. And that is develop that part of the island. And so we have to give the gentleman the opportunity to do it. There have been some naysayers, just like with anything else. You're going to have some people call them the haters, I call them naysayers, sideline individuals who can come with all types of things. But if you had a better idea, why haven't you brought it here?
Whoa.
Okay?
Whoa.
Now someone comes with something, now you can find everything wrong with that. Okay, so I already know you are one of those arena people who will sitting there waiting to see it. Once this development comes and God allows you to live long enough, you're going to say, ooh, I had something to do with it. So I'm waiting. I want God to let me live long enough so I can see one of them when it does come to fruition, and they'll be out there smiling and happy, and I'm going to be happy with them, and I'm going to just tell them on the side, you know you didn't do this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand what public-private partnerships.
Yeah.
Just because it don't work, don't mean in leadership you don't quit. You got to keep swinging that back.
That's what you have to do.
Eventually you hit that home run. You can't give up. You got to keep swinging that back.
You just hit
Yeah.
on the main thing that, the 3 P's concept is what is going on in America right now. And we have so many folk in our immediate area who don't understand the concept. Their inability to understand and comprehend what goes on in the functioning of that concept allows them to be negative. So I don't get angry at them or with them. I try to pray for them and hope that they could come around. Now, the worst thing that I think any governing body can do is to fall prey to negativism or to the negative element that comes from what you know is the right thing to do. Any person, any politician who is so afraid to cast an unpopular vote for a situation or an element that is the proper and the right thing to do, yet his constituents don't totally understand it, I think is a poor politician.
I agree 100%.
Because everything that I am privy to, my constituency isn't privy to that. And I cannot divulge some of the things because it's just not the proper time for divulgence of that information. So you end up having to fight through a lot of battles, in order to get this whole thing won in this war. Now, when we talk about downtown, that type of development there is the basic part of it. I inherited it. It happened through and during the previous mayoral administration when they came with the concept of reimagining.
Again, though, but honesty and transparency, and that's what you kind of lack in today's society when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
You say you inherited it.
Yeah.
Again, that's what viewers kind of
Right.
want to hear. They want to hear facts.
Yeah, and it's factual. It's true. I didn't come with the idea of doing that. No, during the previous administration, they had worked on Motiva purchasing those buildings and moving, employees and persons, live bodies downtown during the workday. Well, what happened? COVID came along because I think had we not had that almost 2-year lull, we would have a lot more movement down there now, and you would see a lot more now than you can actually see right now. It's happening now, but with that, you have an opportunity to, some folks don't like this term, but this is what goes with it. Gentrification, and to re-gentrify an area is basically developing or redeveloping. However, when you re-gentrify, when an area is totally redone, you are in a process of uplifting. The land value when nothing was there could be down here. And mom and pop could live there. We've re-gentrified it, or you're going through a gentrification. Now the land value goes up, where mom and pop, maybe they can't stay there. Now what you don't do is just totally displace them. You find an area that they can afford at the income level where they are, and you place them in this new area. You don't abandon gentrifying or even re-gentrifying or redeveloping, whatever term you want. They all to me, they're synonymous. That's what I think anyway. Because you know economically what this does for your community. Okay, the corridor on Proctor Street right now, that development with Motiva is anchoring that development. You know, Motiva is the big boy in this game. If the big boy goes or shows up, all the little dudes coming. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to talk down about other smaller companies or entities, but every other entity. Once Motiva is set down in downtown Port Arthur and they're set, you watch all of these other companies come. But you've got to first have enough vision. You have to have a visionary. You have to have the vision to see that this has to happen. There were some folks saying we ought to just abandon that idea. It's not going to happen. No, man, you have to see the vision. You have to understand and know why all the scaffolding was torn down, why they moved away. Yeah.
Long term.
Okay, now, it takes time. With that, during our quadcentennial preparation, that was in 23 for the 125th anniversary of our city, we had a meeting with the planning group, and I had an idea. And my idea was to just, for the quadcentennial, first of all, you do something. If you're a mayor and you're in the city, you want to do something to be sure that your legacy is left intact. I think anybody who serves in public office, they are, I don't want to get vulgar on your show.
No, I want you to relax and be you on this show.
Okay, well, they're a mule mouth lie if they say they don't care about what's going to be said about when they're gone. Yeah, they kind of lie.
Yeah.
So you need to begin, or if, I'm just saying you collectively, that, you're that person, you begin to think of things that can occur that would have your signature on it. I just spoke about one. No matter what they talk about, after the voters and this project began on Pleasure Island, it happened under my administration. I just showed you. This Motiva project began under another administration. Now, because it was shut down, I inherited it, but it was shut down. It had to be brought back. You know who was very instrumental in being sure that it was brought back?
Who?
Me!
Love it.
Okay. I mean, it's a very poor dog won't wag his own tail now.
Yeah.
You go on Facebook and say all these other crazy things about me. I'm trying to give them the truth.
Yeah, that's the
If they're
purpose of the
listening.
show.
Yeah, if they're listening. Okay?
So you picked up and carried someone else. You picked up and carried it. Yeah, you picked it back up and
Initiated the
carried it.
meeting.
And could care less about somebody else started it. It's good for your community, so you want to keep it going.
That's what
Yeah.
you just said, the key thing. I know what this is going to do for the city of Port Arthur. What this is going to do for entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial involvement, that's what I want to say, in that corridor. What this is going to do for that entire neighborhood. We have 120 apartments that are available up there right now. Okay, I think it's Lakeshore Apartments. Okay, this is getting ready to become a premier mixed-use neighborhood.
And it's something you're leaving out that's kind of unique for the city of Port Arthur. I actually have a college
Yeah, I was getting ready. I was moving down Proctor. I was getting there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty. Most cities would love for their campus to be located
Right
downtown.
there, Lamar State College, Port. And right now, from what I can understand, I think we got close to 45 or 4,600 students there with the early college enrollment and co-enrollment and the students and the programs that they have. That this is the largest it's ever been.
That's a plus.
That's a plus. And I could say all of this occurred during my administration. So that's what I'm saying. You want to make sure that your legacy is right. And if I don't speak about it, I can't expect someone else to come on your show and talk about it. Okay? That brings me to this point. You didn't ask me, but I'm going to just tell you.
Tell me what you want to tell me. That's what
You have to have a good way of getting there. So that's what I was telling you during the quad squeeze and sitting your meeting, pre-development meeting. I had the idea of the 2 blocks. But I was only talking about the 2 blocks from Proctor to Lakeshore. And we would fix them up real nice, and city manager and I talked about it. He called in a designer, and we got to working on it. And then one morning I went to the office and we were there, and he said, well, Mayor, how do you feel if we would just extend this? And we'd sit down looking at a little map, and I said, yeah, man. I said, well, all the way to Gulfway? He said, yeah, because that's where the state, because it's a state highway, and the state takes care of basically all of that, because that's part of 69 up until Gulfway. And he said, I think we will be able to do this. I said, well, man, let's go for it. He said, yeah, you want to do 2 blocks, let's just go ahead and add the other 10. We were fought. I was threatened that I misappropriated $14 million. We had the bond council to come from Houston about 3 to 4 times to explain to councilmen that this money can be used for this. The bond issue is vaguely written. I didn't write it. I wasn't even up there. Okay, those specifics were not put in there that money cannot be used for that. You want your thoroughfare getting to what your premier place is to look like you're going somewhere. And God bless their souls. We have individuals who come totally uninformed. And when I'm saying totally uninformed, but because someone is feeding them misinformation. And they're coming in with those things, old ideas that are totally wrong, making idle remarks of someone going to jail and something happening. I mean, why would I want to put my signature on something that's going to get me locked up? Okay, so, but again, it's politics. It's not Sunday school. I said that earlier. So with that, God blesses us by March or April, hopefully, in good weather, weather permitted, that corridor will be almost complete. And I just returned home. I was at the Mayor's Institute of City Design, on City Design. It was held this year in University of Florida. They selected 7 mayors from around the country to participate and do a case study and present a case study to a panel of professionals, architects, engineers who deal with city design. I was selected. We had the very first visit in July. And the projects that were given, Pleasure Island, really out in the area where we are, not where we are, but out in this area out here, and also in the Woolworth Boulevard project. I embraced the Woolworth Boulevard project more than anyone because that was my project. And once we actually presented and turned in all of the information on all of the different projects, and then that panel looked at it and they selected to do the case study on my project, which is a Woolworth project. I just returned home a few days ago from that visit there. How important that was, being one of 7 mayors from around the country to be selected this year to participate and then get input on the project. So there's another element that I want to add.
That's what I was going to push on you to kind of explain to the viewers. Can you talk about some of the benefits to actually being selected?
Okay, well, whatever project that you have that you go and you do the case study on, you're going to get information from these highly prepared, super educated individuals in the field, professionals of city design. Next, you're going to be able to return, as I have, and matter of fact, I have a briefing in tomorrow, or debriefing, that I would call it, where I'm going to share with the planner and city managers what I received there. The benefits is they've given me a whole nother sketch, because I want to add outdoor art to that boulevard.
But hold on, let me stop you right there. When you say a whole nother sketch, just for people watching in government, when you talk about you talk about architectural renderings and you talk about designs, just if we had to go out and get a bid for designs, let's start talking facts. If we had to go out and get a bid, you talking about
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And this is a trip that your city invested in.
No, wait a minute. The city didn't have to even invest 1 quarter in this. I made the application. Well, how you do it is I did a presentation online of my qualification and what's going on in my city. And you're selected basically from that. And you're competing with mayors from all around the country.
We're talking about New York, Houston, Dallas.
Yeah.
We have mayors, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were 1 out of 7. And actually traveled down there.
Right, and they pay for your travel, your lodging and everything.
Wow. And
because
the value of the savings you get of the professionals actually viewing the plan.
And that goes
and critiquing them and giving you suggestions of what you can do better.
Just to sit in that room with them, AJ, is totally. I mean, I can't even think of a word to describe it. To sit there, because when they begin the dialogue of the feedback to you, I sat there through 6 mayors, listening, and I know what it was for mine. Man, you learn so much. And just mine was the addition of the art there. Okay, I have a person who deals with art placement, an architect around the United States of America. There's another engineer who's in there who handles the, I can't think of the term that they use for art. I have all these notes written down in my little booklet. I think I was going over it.
We'll do a second interview, don't worry about it. We'll come back and do another.
All of that, it was free. And these are architects. They're so smart. We had pictorial renderings and all these other stuff in my PowerPoint presentation. But this one guy who was from Vancouver. He lives in Vancouver, in Canada. But his company is worldwide. And what we aren't supposed to do is name any of those people, because they're the ones that actually pay for all of this, and they don't want it to be said, okay, well, you're doing it now. Your city is doing business with these people, so I'm held to secrecy on that part. But that's where he's housed, and he sits and as I'm speaking, he draws this whole little sketch, and then and shows it to me, shows me how the art can be placed, what we can do for re-gentrification of that boulevard, what could actually go on that boulevard as the gateway to get downtown to what is going to be downtown. You know, if we're going to have 300 to 500 to 600 new folk down there in a few years, you want to have all these amenities back, not right there where they are, but in a half a mile radius or so.
So,
You know,
the reason I'm interrupting you because I see and I have seen and I've researched that you had some issues in the past with council members when it comes to traveling.
yes.
And I think this is an opportunity to kind of discuss it and explain to viewers the importance of elected officials actually traveling and what's the asset and value that can be brought back. Yeah.
Right now, we are in a dispensation of time where if you're not in the room at the table, you're on the menu. Now, that's as simple as I can get it. And if Port Arthur does not have representation where these decisions are being made, Port Arthur is not going to get any benefits from it. I've had several opportunities during my 5.5 years now of being mayor to be in places. Something very simple. I was with the former mayor of Beaumont, Mayor Mouton, and I
know exactly what project you're finna talk
went
about.
to Washington, D.C. At the behest of a mutual friend who has an architectural and engineering firm in Houston, who said, I'm going to get you all into the Department of Transportation. I could get you up to the 7th floor. The 8th floor is where the secretary is. The 7th floor is the undersecretaries. They are the ones who bring up to the secretary what should happen. God has blessed me if you let me in the room.
The table you've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you give me a chance to speak. You won't know who I am before I leave. We were there. My port, but prior to going, I already talked with Larry Kell over at the Port of Port Arthur, because I know that they had been trying, and this is what I was informed. They had tried for 4 years to get some of those funds, the grant funds, and were never selected. When we got there, we found out, okay, they had 900, I think, right at 1,980 cities in America trying to get this money. They were only be able to give the money to 19 cities.
19 cities out of how many?
Out of 900, and I want to say 986, that number keeps jumping in my mind, I could be wrong.
Let's
but
just say north of 900.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once I was able to speak in this room of about close to 10 individuals, but one of the undersecretaries, he's sitting there. He was the big man in the room, and he said, "Well, Mayor, I see your passion for your city. I can understand it." He said, "You make me feel as though, I need to visit there or something." Well, if you are the mayor, if I don't believe in Port Arthur, I'm gonna get you to believe in it.
Exactly.
No matter how badly I'm treated in Port Arthur, I'm beaten up and everything else, I still have to have positivity for Port Arthur. So, with that, we leave. A couple of days later, get an email and a call and said, okay, look, your city has been selected. I was able to get, right, 14 point something, right at 15 million for Port Arthur, Mayor Mouton was able to get about 24 million for Beaumont.
I have to. But see, that's important because travel is a big hot topic when it comes to elected officials traveling to different areas. But again, when you're at those tables, it's no travel that can amount to that return.
But you're talking about a couple of $1,000s to get some millions. Now, I don't want to talk about folk, but small-mindedness, envy, jealousy, at some points, total ignorance will allow a person to be sucked up into a thought process that will say, no, you don't need to go. Well, if I don't go, then my city is not going to prosper. And I remember there was one statement, oh, all you do is go and party. No, now, if I would be your mayor at 26, I probably would go party. I'm 70.
Yeah.
Okay? If I think I'm partying, I'm sleeping. Okay? If I'm going to take care of all my business all day, okay?
Yeah.
So, you know, I listen to things that people say, but most of it, I'm gonna just tell you, it's not based on fact. And I don't want to go too far off the real script I'm supposed to be answering, but it's jealous-hearted, envious individuals.
And sometimes they can be the people you actually serve with.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about some people and somebody else. The folk I'm sitting there with.
Yeah, I've even seen attacks on political candidates about travel when they're not telling some of the things that this travel actually.
They're not.
Yeah.
You see, people find topics, well, they call them hot topics, that's what they like to say, no, but they are nationalists. And if I know that I can speak, it's just like right now they're talking about, I hope I don't throw you off with this, they're talking about water rates in Port Arthur, but guess what? If we don't get some money for the water department, it's gonna be everybody on the other side of, and I'm saying the south side of 73 without water one day because we are not addressing what needs to happen. And if we, that's the only thing about that. Maybe I'm venturing off, but I'm just speaking from my heart.
Express yourself.
I have never been in a meeting where Entity came and said, okay, we're finna raise your rate, what you think about it? Or I've never been in a meeting where Texas Gas came and said, we're finna raise your rate, what do you think about it? I've never been in a meeting where T-Mobile or Verizon said, we're finna raise your rate. No, all you know is you get a bill the next month, it's up, and you don't, either you pay for the service or don't, and we disconnect you. For whatever reasons, in your city, now I understand all of the other little ramifications that they say are connected with this. You know, the citizens, you know, the service is not 100%. No service anywhere is going to actually be that. Okay, and there was something a lady put on one of those social medias talking about the hydrants leaking water, so y'all need to fix this. Okay, and I don't doubt that. If they're leaking, they need to be repaired. But that still does not support your not paying $5 or $6 extra a month so that we would have the funds to repair our flow of water, the system that flows the water to all of us.
So I think this is important for viewers, just to educate some who might not understand what we're talking about. So when it comes to our funding mechanisms, they all have to survive on their own, right?
Yeah.
And you have a water fund where the water revenue has to support the water infrastructure. And if it doesn't, and when I say water infrastructure, sewer, drainage, if it doesn't support it and you want to borrow money to fix your city, now your bond rating will go down because the funding isn't supporting.
And you understand, you know how it goes. You up there, you taking money out of your general fund account to support an account that should be independent and self-functioning.
But let's take it another level. Okay, our area is known for storms. So with FEMA, sometimes it takes years to get a refund for the
Yeah.
revenue you pull out of your general fund to get your city back up and running.
Yeah.
So if you keep pulling money out your
You
general
might wait
fund,
2 years before you get the money back.
but if you keep pulling money out your general fund,
You won't have a general fund. That's why your bond rating goes down. You know, you become a total risk to these bonding agents in New York and England and everywhere else.
and then they won't let you borrow the money.
See, but small-mindedness, you see, I just thought about something my grandmother used to say years ago. You know, see, they want to be big, but small got them.
Whoa.
Okay, and they, you know, they just, you know, they grab a hold to a subject or a topic. They think that they are fighting a real good issue. But in the long run, what are those results going to be? So that takes me back to what you originally said. Traveling, bringing money to the city, that the city can actually see the benefits from, is a plus for your city.
Yeah.
But, you know, and when you have, again, small-minded individuals who will just, for whatever reason, be against something that is positive for your community. See, most of them, I'm gonna tell you what it is. They wanted to be the mayor. I can't help the people didn't elect them. What the hell are you gonna dislike me for? Kill all them people that voted for me. Don't kill me.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And that's just, man, that's just, you know, that's what it is. I just said that. I feel so good. Okay.
You let it out.
Yeah.
That's what this revenue, I mean, that's what this platform is for, you know, like to really express and get some of those facts out there that people just don't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you understand, when you are in a position and you're trying to get economic development in your city, you got these different investors looking at your city, the first thing I do is view your council meeting. And if they view your council meeting and you're not getting along, you're arguing, you're looking unprofessional up there, you're gonna look up, you won't be an attractive city to come to.
I mean, you are not attracted to these people. We've had in the city of Port Arthur, there were two investors I know who were totally positioned to put some millions of their own dollars into some developments in Port Arthur, and they viewed the council meeting. So I have to say I'm a part of it because I'm on the council. You know, I'm with, you know, I'm the mayor. But I just, all I can say is, man, I can't control these people's thinking. But my sister reminded me of something the other day. She told me, she said, Thurman, do you remember the day that you were sworn in and you stood up and said, look, I can't do this by myself. And if it doesn't happen, don't just blame me, you gotta blame them. And I pointed at the council members who were on either side of me. And they all were, yeah. I have a picture in my office of me saying, you know, with that, and that's what I was saying. But I see it, everything this, that, and even thought about it. But my sister made me remember that the other day. And with that, that's why I never wanted to be in municipal government. That's why being in judiciary was
you gotta have a
really
majority
comfortable.
to get anything done. And the majority, y'all got 7, right?
Yeah.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Four,
Have
yeah.
to agree.
Yeah.
In order to get something done.
And when you don't have it, it happens, and all you can do is, you know, when you get individuals who think along racial lines, they think along, I guess, economic lines when they're talking about finances. And, you know, if a person has a credible descending vote, I guess you would call it, or you know, something credible.
A credible reasoning why.
Yeah, and that makes good sense.
Even if it's credible to them.
Yeah.
A reason why.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, I could go with that. But just to say it, I mean, you know, I get, since we're talking about, I'm just talking.
Mm-hmm.
My city is probably 50% to 52% African American. Yet, I can't get my city council, who is 90% African American, to pay dues in the African American Males Association, to want to pay dues in the Texas Black City Council Members Association. You saw them all in the dinner, though. They were all sitting. I was embarrassed. I don't mind saying this on here. I'm just telling the truth. You would come into this banquet to eat and wouldn't and voted not to pay a measly $120 for my membership.
The thing about it, to my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and that's the part that's kind of has me a little surprised. I couldn't understand why would you go into a organization where they're supplying food for members if you're not a member. So that's why I'm confused. I had no clue. So you're saying like it's literally some council members who actually went to this, sat down as members and weren't members and had dialogue
Right.
and relationships and ate
Of course.
and broke bread.
Okay. Yes.
Wow.
And it's, you know, I mean, it baffled me. It baffled me. I am the national chaplain of the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials. That's a national organization within the National League of Cities, the largest advocacy group in NLC.
And to my understanding, one of the strongest financial, the most revenue generated
Yeah.
in LC. They give
And-
out scholarships and everything, correct?
Yeah, and do you know they don't want to pay my membership in that? And I don't represent Thurman Bartie. When they say Thurman Bartie National Chaplain, I'm on the board of directors and all that. You know what they say? Thurman Bartie representing Port Arthur,
Texas.
but I can't get Port Arthur, Texas to pay the dues. And it's not that we don't have the money now. Because those same individuals will allow millions of dollars to get away that they don't understand. But see, they can understand $120. They can understand $200. They understand
abatements.
$1,000. Yeah,
Tax abatements.
yeah. You're getting the millions. It's too complex and complicated for them. So they just let that go. I ain't letting you go where you want to go because you don't need to go.
So one of the interesting things is I think it's kind of different that I can understand if you don't want to support something, it's your prerogative. But to not support it and stay away from it is understandable. But not support it and participate in it, I kind of don't understand how that would work. But hey, neither here nor there. Let's move to the next question. Port Arthur has faced many natural disasters. How do you approach these crises to build both short-term and long-term solutions? Like when you face natural disasters in the past, like how have you dealt with them?
Well, first of all, again, I deal with my faith. I can't separate myself from my faith. I depend on God for His guidance, but that He has allowed me to have a team, emergency management director, a coordinator rather, and an assistant coordinator, and the emergency management team that supplies me with the information as being the emergency management director, that I can make sound decisions based on real, factual information. Now, when you are faced with a situation where an evacuation might be imminent, you would, first of all, want to be sure that the predictions are just what they say they are. Now, with hurricanes, sometimes Just like I know we had, I think it was Hurricane Laura. It came out and it was about 20 miles from the Texas line in the Gulf, and it just turned and went to Louisiana. You know, I mean, we were ready for the hit, but we had prepared the city, the residents. I had made the call for an evacuation, you know, voluntary, and we had moved the citizens out of harm's way. When you have to do that, I learned early on, that is a heavy burden. The burden is, one, suppose it doesn't come, suppose it does like Laura did in Turing. And then two is, if you don't tell them to leave and it does come, and they end up losing their lives and everything else, you know, you can replace furniture in a home and all this other stuff, you can't replace a life.
Agreed.
So that's why your faith has to be strong. And I've been involved with one in particular, I forgot which storm it was, but you know, stations from all around the country were basically here. And I made a statement that we had been asking people to leave, I know, since for about a couple of days, because the storm was out there, and we had, you know, with the technology that we have now, I guess we call it AI, you know, you could make some pretty good predictions.
Yeah, the AI's pretty tough.
Yeah, and what happened was, it was at the 12th hour, 11th hour, I guess you call it, yeah. And they were saying, you know, a lot of folk had not gone, had not moved, and all I could tell them at that point was, now, you know, we have told you to, you know, to leave. I've asked you, I've called for the evacuation now. If you stay, and when this storm gets to raging, don't call down here, because I can't send these people out, and that was my team standing behind me, first responders. I'm not going to ask these people to go out and try to help you, because now you are afraid, or now you're in danger because you wouldn't leave when it was nice and calm. And I just happened to tell them, say, now, if you stay, that's between you and God.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. That one statement made me kind of well known. I became, what do you call them, I went viral.
You a meme. You went viral.
Yeah,
right?
I went viral.
Like,
you know.
it was on
Yeah,
national
I mean, they were
news.
interviewing me.
It was all over.
Yeah,
It was on national radio stations.
BBS.
Yeah.
And BBC, all over in Great Britain and other places. And right now, it's not too many places I can go around in the country where folk, you know, they know me, and they know me from that. And, you know, I say, well, that's my little famous thing. That God blessed me to have been able to do that. And the blessing was we had no loss of life.
Everybody eventually got out.
Amen, they got out, and then the storm didn't come and do us what it could have. So we were blessed. In emergency management situations, you want to preserve life. And again, as I just stated, with AI, the technology that we have, unless it's something that's tornadic in nature, where, you know, the tornadoes just, you know, spin off, and, you know, that happens within seconds. That's, you know, you really can't predict. But they can even let you know that those type clouds, funnel clouds, are probably going to result because of the high and the low and the way the weather pattern is. So they could tell a certain area that you may get, you know, tornadoes or something like that. But even with that, it's still prep time. You know, the sounding of the sirens and other things, but I think they only happen a few minutes before, you know, and I wouldn't want to take a chance on that. If the mayor says leave, I want to leave. And now, being in Port Arthur, getting more personable with it, we're in the southernmost part of the county. Sabine Pass, which is a part of Port Arthur, is the lowest part of Jefferson County. Okay, so what I've got to do, I have to be informed enough and have the intestinal fortitude to where I would tell the people to be passing on Pleasure Island, hey man, you really ought to leave because you are in the lowest parts. And again, my movement in Port Arthur has to come before the movement in Beaumont. Why would I wait until Beaumont calls for evacuation and then my folk are stuck on the highway because now we can't go north because everybody in Beaumont is leaving. You know, so it's strategic.
Yes.
And I learned, and the county judge and I worked on it, and others in some other, in my surrounding cities, they knew that Mayor Bartie would call it. I wasn't afraid.
You're not waiting on nobody to give you permission.
I can't wait for you all to tell me. That's why I have my team of experts, and more than anything, again, as I said from the onset, I ask for God's guidance. And if that inkling is like, man, tell these people to leave, I'm telling folks to leave. I know it was hard. It's sunshine and pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm saying leave, but I just left out of a meeting where they are showing how this thing is growing out in the Gulf, what it's gathering, the barometric pressures and all these other things I don't know nothing about, but they're telling me how all of this is building and what this thing would probably, the strength it would probably have by the time it cuts across all of this warm water and hits land. Well, that is something to be concerned with.
And I think that's a no-brainer when it comes to lives. I think you made a valid point. And I'm going to move on. So as someone deeply committed to public service, what advice would you give to young leaders or future generations interested in community leadership?
Well, one thing I would say, it is an admirable gesture, if you will, on a young individual such as yourself, on their part to want to serve their community. Now, if you want to always be praised, never talked about, just everybody loves you, I guess you're supposed to die. Because I guess dead people are the only ones that everything a person is gonna say about you is good, and everybody like you. If you are alive and you are in any position, there's gonna be some controversy, okay? And I don't want anyone to misconstrue what I just said, is that it's honorable, yet it is not praiseworthy, or you do not get, you would want the total self-actualization out of what you're doing, but the gratifying aspect to whom you're doing it for is not going to manifest itself like that.
No, not originally.
You know, so you have got to be able to understand more than anything that you're not doing this to be praised, but because you praise, you compelled to do what you're doing. You know, you're not going to be praised,
Deep.
but because you praise the Almighty, this is what He has you doing. So any young person who wants to do it and they've prayed and God has given them the direction for it, all I can tell them is to go for it and stay close to God. And He's going to see you through those times when it's not as friendly and happy and all of that you may have thought. Yet, it's an admirable vocation, if you will. And you would know that you're doing the right thing. You know, it's so many individuals I know who don't understand what their passion is. They don't understand what their calling is. They don't understand or even have any semblance of what they should be doing. Yet you have others who would say, no, I'm made for this. I'm cut for this. I'm born to do this. if you are like that, I would say go for it. You know, one of the worst things, AJ, not the worst things, I can't say it like that, but it's just something that I can't ascribe to. That a person in elective office say that they are not a politician. If you're in this game,
You a politician.
you're a politician. You know, I've heard, folks say, oh no, I ain't a politician, but no, well, hey, boo, you need to go find you something else to do. Because that's what this is. Again, as I say, it's not Sunday school. You know, which means that, you know, it's going to be some wrangling, you know, some dealing, all types of backbiting, and that goes with the territory. But can you just, you know, and everybody knows that it's not anything unknown. You know, I deal with a council that's hostile. Yet, I know that I still got to go in there and try to work with them. You know, and it's challenging. You know when it gets to be fulfilling? When you know that you've done the best that you can. And it's sort of, again, you know, what the Bible says, you know, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And a lot of times with these things, you guys just have to let those people that you think are negative, those people that you think are just so much against you, just stand still. And what simple fact is this, AJ? It's not any place that I was supposed to be that God has not made a way for me to be there.
Didn't get there on your own.
Everything that they've ever voted and said they would, okay, well, that's what they do. I have gone to everything that I was supposed to be and still represented Port Arthur.
To the fullest. So one thing that's been gratifying to me is no matter how negative or down it could be, when I'm out in my community dealing with the people who put me in my seat, the love and appreciation and gratitude I receive from my community.
Amen. God will send someone to you to encourage you, even when you least expect it. And from a person that you least expect it from.
And it's happened to me often, very often.
You know, many people that you don't even think are paying attention to what you're doing will come to you and just let you know that, hey man, you know, what you did is, you know, it's really working for me. Those who are negative, that's just what they like.
But another thing I learned, the negative ones are the ones who are the loudest.
Yeah.
There's a lot more positive people who just don't choose
They
to
just
be
don't
loud.
say nothing, yeah.
And I could be in the grocery store, I could be in the mall, I could be out to dinner with my wife. Those positive ones will come.
And will say something to you.
And it can mean the world. It
And
can.
that's the difference in the truth in this profession as opposed to the facade that's put up and, you know, folk are just being someone who they really are not.
Man, so the theme of this podcast is don't give up on the system. We put this together to educate the community on how these systems work, what the roles and responsibilities of some of our guests are, and how they navigate the political landscape. And a lot of these systems, you see a lot of people giving up on them. So what would you say to people who feel uneasy or discouraged by the system?
If they feel uneasy and discouraged by the system, I tell you what, you're in America, and it's going to be like it is. You know, we're in the middle of a presidential election. You know, that's really a close race that some people think it shouldn't be close, but it's according to what your positioning is as to whether you think it ought to be close or not. The system has not been as I guess, as good or hasn't been as favorable to certain or specific individuals according to circumstances that they win and results that they were actually anticipating. But at this point, this is the only system we have. And because it's the only system that we have, we just gotta just stay with it. And I'm gonna use the term that you ought to be familiar with. Just redirect totally. Because this is what it is. So you just gotta redirect your feelings and accept what it is and let what is going on work positively for you.
You got to learn to bend the will of these systems to the will of your universe and make it make sense. And my last question is, which is my favorite question, when it's all said and done, legacy, what do you want people to remember you by?
That I tried to make life better in Port Arthur as mayor. I tried to bring the quality of life to a different level that I've tried during my tenure to serve the present age according to what was dealt to me and what has been dealt to me. And at the end of the day, some folk will feel positive about it. Some folk would say, okay, I'm on the affirmative of that. Because we're in America, the greatest country in the world, have some of the greater freedoms and the greatest freedoms that anyone can have on this earth. They can say whatever negatives they like to say. All I've got to be sure that I stand solid on knowing that I've done my best. And that's what I want them to be able to say. That, hey man, say what you will of me, Thurman Bartie did his best.
Much respect. And like that basketball theory, no matter how many times you were pushed down, what you always did.
Yeah, bounce back up.
Much respect. I enjoyed the show.
Got you, man. Got
And
you,
you a
man.
noob too, huh?
Going on 50 years.
Man, we got us another one, guys. Mayor of Port Arthur, Texas, Thurman Bartie, showed how he can go all the way to the bottom and bounce back up to the top. He talked about some of his past, some of his present, and what he thinks about the future. To all our followers, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on social media. Don't give up on the system on all outlets. AJ Turner, I'm out.
I didn't choose politics. Politics chose me.